All right, how you doing, guys? This is Eric from RuleTheWasteland.com. This is probably going to be a relatively short live stream because I am super stuffy. I got struck down with some kind of Omicron, so my voice is kind of giving out. I just did a live stream with JJ about all the drone activity and our thoughts on that. So if you want to go check that out, that should be available on his channel, Reality Survival. But this video is really quick, and I should hopefully be able to throw some links in the chat, and afterwards they'll be in the video description of 10 ish, might be slightly more left less. I think I counted 10 good prepper gifts. I put best in the title because you got to do a little bit of artistic license, a little bit of clickbaity. I don't know if they're actually the best, but they're 10 solid. Yeah, maybe the drones dusted me with sickness, but 10 solid Christmas gifts that you can get for under $100 for preppers, most of which I tried to find ones that should still be available to get to you by Christmas. But that might not be 100% the case depending on when you watch this video. But a good portion of them are available on Amazon and whatnot. So like I said, I'll post the links here of stuff that you should be able to find on Amazon and get to you within Christmas time. Give to those people that you care so much that you want them to survive the apocalypse. And speaking of surviving the apocalypse, one item on the list, of course, how could I be leaving this off, is the Rule the Wasteland Micro Survival Fishing Kit. The regular deluxe ones are not in stock to get to you in time for Christmas, so they fall under the category as well. But there's still like 5 or 6 of these on Amazon. So let's see if we can find the copy of the link here. So this is a fishing kit. Fish kit. Bam. Super cheap right now. They're $15 or just under. 20% off for Christmas. So the next 5 or 6 of you will get a deal, get to you by Christmas. Great stocking stuffer or gift for people who you want to survive the apocalypse. Next up, I've talked to you guys before about how I've fallen in love with these out the front automatic knives. And this lightning automatic knife you can find usually somewhere in the $30 to $40 range. There's a website called Grindworks that has them. Link to all these will be in the description if you're watching this later. They're just so fun. And obviously these are on the lower end of the, and check your local laws because these are not necessarily legal everywhere. On the lower price range of what I would consider, good enough quality. I've definitely fallen in love with this Benchmade one, which you can just hear it sing. Listen to that. That's awesome. It awakens ancient blood memories of the Riddle of Steel. Every time I hear that thing, I'm like, by crumb! But that does not fall under the $100 one, unfortunately for you. But these lightning ones are pretty badass still. The only thing I really don't like about these is I've come to vastly prefer the button being on the inside there where your thumb automatically is when you pull it out of your pocket. But that may be user dependent anyway. But this has a nice flat shape and honestly probably a more usable blade shape for most common tasks than this dagger shape anyway. So these are pretty awesome. And I guarantee you anyone who is into prepping and knives will just have fun with it. So next up, made a quick video on these as well, is this Power Owl battery charger. It comes with the rechargeable batteries. These are great to put in any sort of power outage kit, especially if you have a power bank or solar panels or anything like that. So let me give you the quick link on those. And if you see the little cactus behind me, he is currently running off these and has been for quite a while. So that's how I was testing them out. And it's so great to just, especially if you have something that you just need batteries, you don't have to have stockpiles and stockpiles of batteries, and you can put the AA or AAA regardless of size in either of these banks. So you can do all AAA, all AA, mix and match, vice versa. Relatively inexpensive and a useful, exciting tool there as well. Next up, this is something that may not be quite as exciting or cool, but definitely inexpensive and something that's good to have around. And that is the a pack of these tourniquets. TQ, put that in the list here. These are great because, like I said, they're relatively inexpensive. I think the 4-pack that I put you a link on there for is like $18. And these are not the highest quality ones. They have the plastic spindle, I forget what that's called, arm on there for twisting, which, if you really want one that's going to take up heavy use or something, then you might want to go with the aluminum bar on there. But most of the time, that thing's not going to break on you. And for a situation where you're talking about in your car or not necessarily post-apocalyptic, but just to have a couple of these lying around where you're in situations where most of the time you're going to have access to emergency services anyway, and you just want to, actually apply first aid. Most of the time, that is going to be sufficient, and you'll save a few bucks by getting the slightly cheaper one. And especially if you're talking about a stocking stuffer, those will fit the bill. Next up, we got, and this thing's really cool, the Mission Darkness Faraday bag. See if you guys can see that. So these will stop your cell phone from both receiving and transmitting signals, as well as protect it from any sort of EMP pulse, provided you are probably shielding it from the bag itself. So I am not actually sure, based on the design of this bag, because the inside you can see that conductive fabric that I've talked about before. You can buy sheets of that. The phone is directly in contact with that when you put it inside the bag, which doesn't do anything bad to it if you're just talking about it not being tracked and not being able to transmit or receive signal. But in the event of like an EMP or something, I would probably want to wrap it in some kind of non-conductive material just to be sure, because I'm not sure exactly how the EMP would be transmitted through that material from outside the bag. But you could wrap it in cardboard or styrofoam or anything like that. Mylar would probably do the trick if you're worried about EMP. But definitely when we've seen incidents before where the government tracked people based on their cell phone, or if you just don't want everyone knowing what you're up to all the time, want to go off grid a little bit, that could be a good option there. What else we got? Of course, something that all preppers are going to appreciate: silver. Now, this is a hefty silver bar. This would not be under $100, but a simple silver eagle, which you can get all sorts of places. On Amazon, I don't necessarily recommend Amazon because of the price, but if you do want them quick, these right now on there for most areas in the country will be overnight or one day. So you'll pay a few extra bucks for a single silver eagle, but they will get there fast. So that's the advantage of Amazon. But in general, any kind of prepper in your life is always going to appreciate an extra silver round. And the silver eagles are a solid one. So I can recommend that. I can certainly say that I would always appreciate and do appreciate any silver those that have sent to me in the past. And then we got, what else we got here? Close out the silver. Oh yeah, this one's really cheap, especially if you want to break it up, and really fun. It's actually surprising how fun these are for adults and kids and non-preppers and preppers alike. A big pack of light sticks. Now the link I have is for I can never figure out how to say this. Sialume light sticks, glow sticks, chem lights, whatever you want to call them. These things have a lot of utility for any sort of situation where you may not have power, EMP scenario, or even just don't want to use power, or you want a long-term marker, signaling. I have one in my backpack that I carry around for pretty much whenever I go anywhere. A couple of these because you don't have to worry about storage. They'll sit there for years. You don't have to worry about EMP. You don't have to worry about batteries. You don't have to worry about anything. You'll always have a source of light and marking, visibility, whatever. And you can get the thing I sent you was the link that I posted in there is a 30 pack for just over 30 bucks. So they're just over a buck a piece. That's not a bad gift for someone if you know you can use them, or certainly busting those open and putting a couple in everybody's stockings. But be warned, you better put more than one, because everyone's always going to use one and just use it right on the spot and be like, oh, because they're just fun. I don't know what to tell you. They're really fun to bust out the chem lights and rock those around. So next up is I know you guys have seen the video I did on the Leehoo's weather radio. That thing was surprisingly effective given how much power you could generate from a few cranks, and it has the built-in stations for the emergency radio. It has AM, as FM, it has a light. So pretty cool little radios, compact. I've mentioned before that the solar panel on there is mostly a gimmick. It's not really effective, but it is overall a great little radio from my experience with it. And they're only 50 or 60 bucks. and a pretty great emergency preparedness item there. Beans and rice you could get for $100. You're right, First Amendment. Looked at that one. So now we're getting towards the slightly more expensive ones. That was 50 bucks. This clearly filtered water bottle. I know there's another company called Grail that makes a similar one. This one I chose because you just fill up the bottle and it has the filter as a straw. Now the Grail one, and I use this for like at the airport and stuff because their water, I don't know what the hell they do to it, but it tastes like the lazy river at Wet and Wild. Like there's so much chlorine, is literally nauseating. It makes me sick and I can't even smell it. There's so much chlorine in that water. Can't be safe. I would probably rather risk the Giardia than that. There's like industrial semi-fatal levels of chlorine. And this filters that out to where, and not to mention all other sorts of stuff that you could use in an emergency situation. But I use this as my travel bottle. As long as you don't have water in it, you can get through security and then just fill it up with their water. Because I would just take water that I've already filtered, but you're not allowed to do that. Water is evil. So, and this thing is right now, I think it's like 65 bucks. Fantastic. And the Grail is the other one I would recommend if you would rather like push it through and then drink normally. So it's a little more work to filter, but easier to drink. This is a lot less work to put the water in, a little more work to drink because you have to suck it through the filter. So it's kind of like drinking a milkshake. Um, so this one is not giving me a link for some reason, but it'll be in the description afterwards. So that's pretty awesome. And I think that is, oh, I got the last one. So the last one is the Safe Life Defense backpack, bulletproof backpack panel. I carry this around, like I said, again, in my backpack all the time. I'm going to play poker, whatever. The lower level ones, not the 3A plus, not the FRAS, but just the level 3A, I believe is right now under $100. I will, you'll have to find it exactly on their website, but this is the link for Safe Life. What's up, High Desert Pioneer? He says, I see you got my Christmas list. Yeah, right? And yeah, so these are awesome because they're super lightweight, they're flexible, they fit in most backpacks, and it'll stop all your common handgun calibers from 9mm all the way up to 44 Magnum and shotgun slugs and buckshot. So pretty useful. This doesn't stop rifle rounds, obviously. And if you want to stop the really high velocity handgun rounds, like the FN57 and the Liberty Civil Defense 9mm, which is super high velocity, then you'll want to go with the 3A Plus, which I think is just over $100 depending on their sale. But this is good for most of the normal stuff that you would face. So that's pretty much a decent list of 10 cheap, relatively speaking, in today's economy, things that you can get for anyone who would consider a prepper. It'll come in under $100 in most cases. And as of today, 12/15 should, in most things on this list, get to you by Christmas, depending on where you are in the country, if you're in the US. So hopefully that's some stuff that you guys can use. I'll spend about another 10 or 15 minutes on topics that you guys want if you have any questions. But like I said, I just got off that live stream with JJ. We're covering the drones. My voice is starting to go out. So I'll probably dip out of here if you guys don't have any topics that you want to cover just now. But yeah, the chlorine in the honestly, a lot of municipal water is like that too. I mean, at home I have a under sink reverse osmosis filter, multi-stage. That thing is fantastic. So I use that for all my drinking water and coffee and everything normally. But when traveling, this bottle is fantastic because you can just filter out stop the microplastics from going in your balls, and the hugely ridiculous levels of chlorine. It's just awful. It makes me nauseous just smelling that. I'm like, oh, it's horrible. At the airports for some reason, extra bad. But like I said, a lot of municipal water is like that too. So let me know if you guys have any topics. Phoenix water is boiled farts. Yeah, that's what First Amendment says. Yeah, you will get some of those sulfur and very mineral heavy municipal water some places as well, where it smells really bad. It's awful, really hard water or something along those lines as well. Lots of minerals, just depends. And I'm more worried about the industrial contaminants, uh, chemicals in the water that are turning all the frogs gay and whatnot, the atrazine, the birth control, the fluoride, the excessive chlorine, all the other pharmaceuticals and stuff that don't get filtered out properly. Just horrible in it. Horrible stuff. So good water filtration should be a mandatory thing for just everyday life. And obviously for after any sort of SHTF event. But, you know, in biological contaminants, like if you're talking strictly viruses and bacteria, those are among the easier things to get rid of because you can just boil it. So that's just a fuel or energy issue, and that kills anything bad. It's the industrial stuff that is harder to get out. But you know, parasites, viruses, and bacteria, you can heat treat the water, or even just use your own chemicals. So that stuff is, if you have the right things, not nearly as big of a deal compared to all these industrial chemicals, which are much more difficult to get out. And unfortunately, are the things that we have to deal with every day, not just post SHTF. In fact, after a disaster scenario, there were probably far fewer industrial contaminants in the water, barring any sort of, you know, meltdown of a nuclear facility or any sort of thing like that. But just all sorts of manufacturing and industrial activity going basically to zero in a major event would probably prevent that. But there also might be leaks and spills and things like that. Y says, speaking of plastic in your balls, I think a primary source is your toothbrush bristles. I recently switched to boar hair toothbrushes. Sorry, I can't speak. Yeah, I mean, it's really bad if you start looking into all the sort of things that can cause microplastic contamination. In fact, one of the worst outside of the water, if you can get the water, that's probably the big one. Paper products, specifically like paper towels, toilet paper, Kleenex, all that stuff is really bad about microplastic. So I mean, you probably have to get a bidet or something eventually, but at this point, you know, you don't want to just filter everything out of your water while you're sticking them on your booty hole at the same time. So that's a really bad one. But it's just everywhere, modern life. So obviously you want to eliminate it to the best of your ability, but it's not necessarily something that you can eliminate 100%. I will say that as far as microplastics goes, large actually pieces of plastic are probably not the biggest offenders, like the toothbrush. Obviously, anything that you have plastic, made of plastic, and putting it in your body or on your body has potential for contamination. And it's probably smarter to use the bamboo or the boar's bristles or whatever else you're talking about. But it's the things that use it as like a coating and in things that get heated. That's where it's already broken down in some other capacity and gets into the water is what probably the biggest offenders. I saw something recently about how one of the organic pastas had like 10 times the microplastics as the Chef Boyardee, which was kind of random. Probably has something to do with just how they make it in their factory, or who knows, the water they use. It doesn't have the other bad stuff like the corn syrup and the soy and all that other, but has more microplastics. It's getting really hard to escape these industrial contaminations, unfortunately. But let's do the best we can. And filtering the water is an easy and obvious one. So appreciate you guys watching. Like I said, this was going to be a quick one because my voice is starting to go out on me. But yeah, we'll get back to you before Christmas for sure. But I wanted to get this one out when you had enough time to still pick up some of these if you needed to for the crazy preppers in your life who you want to survive the apocalypse. High Desert Pioneer says, I'm sure all those pallets of water on the fob in Iraq were fine in August. Man, that there was like a particular taste that water has coming like from the big POL bladders or the water buffaloes or those jerry cans. I'm sure we just got like mega dosed with BPAs and all sorts of uh, fun chemicals fighting it against each other at the same time. Because it was a combination of like the weird plastics being heated in the sun all day and also the mega dosing of whatever chemicals they put in there to just kill all the bad stuff. But yeah, it was just tasted awful. And then of course, all the rust and everything else. Terrible. And yeah, and then actually in, you know, Kuwait and Afghanistan, everything, they would just sit the water bottles out on these pallets in 120 degrees and just chug all the superheated plastics. Brilliant. But we're still here. So we'll fight in the shade with our plastic filled balls. But I'll talk to you guys soon. Like I said, my voice is going out. So I'll see you in videos in the future. Appreciate